Caribou, welcome to Wisdom Exchange TV, an Ignite Excellence Foundation initiative in support of African Businesswomen Connected Summit taking place in Ethiopia in 2013. The Wisdom Exchange is a resource to aid African women to learn, lead, and succeed in life, business, and community. It is a forum where women of all disciplines will learn from African women in politics, philanthropy, education, and business. These are the women that are the change agents of Africa, companies, community, countries, and continent. These women will inspire us to be better than we were before. They'll inspire us to see the world differently and inspire us with the strategies and tactics that they implement. These are the change agents. And my name is Suzanne F Stevens, the president and founder of the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives, the host and producer of Wisdom Exchange TV. Also as the founder of the Ignite Excellence Foundation, which mission is leadership, advocacy, and education. And our vision is to inspire, develop women in emerging countries. We're proud to announce that we just gave out 4 scholarships. As an inspirational speaker, a living coach, and a business leadership trainer, it gives me the pleasure to interview women like the women we're about to interview today. We're with Gladys Ogallo, who is the CEO and founder of Virtual Human Resources Services Limited. Her rich 12 years career in HR management has seen her consult for leading African organizations across the continent, where she deploys expertise in talent management, talent development, labor law, recruitment, selection, performance management, and motivation. A true HR expert. Gladys' HR career has spanned several countries in Africa, and from Zimbabwe to Uganda to Tanzania to Kenya to Guyana, and many others. And in 2009 was recognized as Top 40 Under 40. Please do welcome Gladys Ogallo. It's so nice to finally meet you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
I've had a great opportunity to be. People have talked very highly of you, and people that you've mentored, and it's always nice to meet somebody that is a leader and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur myself, I love meeting entrepreneurs. Tell me, your career was in the corporate world. Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Suzanne, corporate world at times just doesn't answer all what you want. And I did my bit in corporate world. I did it well. And I reached a point when I knew I needed to take a bold step. I must say my corporate world did prepare me for entrepreneurship. The reason why I jumped out is that I reached a point when I felt that ceiling. I don't call it a glass ceiling. I just reached a point where I felt, no, there is much more that I can be doing. So I said, why not step out, take the bold step.
Now, how long ago was that you actually did that?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yes.
So you're still a young entrepreneur.
But I was extremely lucky in the sense that by the time I was jumping out, I had thought through what I wanted to do. A year before I left, I formed Virtual HR Services Limited, and I employed a general manager who was a fresh graduate MBA from Strathmore University, and she was raring to go. So as I was on my job, she was setting up and already running with client assignments. So by the time I stepped out, I wasn't actually stepping out into a void. I was stepping out into a company that already had a bank account, that had bank statement, that had clients, and it wasn't green.
Which is wise. Interestingly enough, I was actually just talking to somebody about who wanted to start their own business.
Yes.
And one of the pieces of advice I gave them is don't learn on your dollar.
Yes.
Learn on somebody else's.
Yes.
And which is exactly what you did, is, started it up. That's a safe way to do it. It's also a smart way to do it.
Yes. To many of the women that I'm mentoring now, that is what I'm telling them to do. That do not be unfaithful to your employer in the sense that you're hustling employment and having a side business in your handbag. Because eventually it will dilute your professionalism where you already are. You don't want to step out of job when you are dead tired. You want to step out when you're still fresh. So even when you're currently employed, you still need to deliver to the very end. However, do not step out to start looking for forms to register a company. Because in this country, that can cause you so many tears. Just the whole process of registering a company, I had to hire a lawyer to do the running around. It means going to Sharia house, it means filling in the forms, it means chasing and following, and it's a mind-boggling web of what you need to do to get a business running. I always tell people, you can't do that when you've stepped out of employment. You will get frustrated, you will get tired, you will shed tears. If it means hiring somebody to do it, let someone else do it. And then my second lesson is, once you've set up, get some clients. You don't have to do the job, but get clients. Get clients from people who have confidence in your skills and in your ability and in the person that you have hired. So that when you're stepping out, you actually are stepping out into green waters, I must say that.
Yeah, and that's great advice. And I'm actually really glad we're interviewing you, because you're in the midst of still entrepreneurship. Because
Yes.
when you start, the first 2 years can be the toughest,
Yes.
and sometimes it can be most rewarding. So what have you found the most rewarding part of this process so far?
I think the most rewarding part is when I walk into a CEO's office and he tells me, oh, you left your employment, now you're able to do a piece of job for me, shake my hand. And I say, I didn't have such a great reputation as an HR as an HR professional. I didn't know that out there people would look at the company that I was running as head of HR as a leading edge company. And if that is going to help me get the consultancy, wow, makes me smile. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've maintained very good relationships with my previous employer, because I believe they built me up. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I find rewarding is that the International Telecommunication Organization, having had not too much, how can I say, I have done jobs for them, but each time they keep giving me more challenging and more rewarding, both financially and mentally, jobs. And I keep saying, it means actually that I'm in this for life. So I find that very rewarding. When I get the job, and I get the job because of my professionalism and because people who may not even have seen my job, my work, but believe that I'll be able to deliver, and they still give me the job, I feel, wow.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
Now, with any entrepreneurship, there's always the challenge. So
Yes.
what have you found the most challenging?
I have found managing people the most challenging. And I'm sure it sounds like a paradox, but if I'm an HR expert,
I wasn't going to say anything.
managing people should be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
But I realized that when I was in corporate, there were systems and there were processes that made it almost easy to manage people. And there were the kind of people that had grown up in the rank within the organization. And I was dealing with a certain level of people. And so managing people then was more structured and easier than it is now. Now here I come up, I set up my own organization. I hire a general manager who is extremely intelligent, extremely hardworking, but is not yet the HR guru. Mm-hmm. So she has the drive, she has the push, but she's now perfecting her skills in HR. Then I hired 2 young graduates from the Catholic University, Bachelor of Commerce in HR, eager to do the job, but with no experience. And the reason why I cannot yet hire those with experience is because the revenue that I'm generating does not justify me hiring that level. So along the line, I have found delegating difficult, motivating difficult, and just keeping the smile when I'm looking at a report and saying, did you do this when you were awake? Yeah, I find that really challenging.
And thanks for your honesty with that, because the reality is, most people, when you ask them the most difficult part of a job, and it is the managing of people. And HR people are not exempt from that reality, especially when you're in the infancy stages of your organization. That can be, without a doubt, was the toughest thing I did. Without a doubt, when I managed people, it was without a doubt the toughest.
So I'm not strange.
Not at all. Not at all. Especially ambitious people too. To your point, they have vision, but you can't can't hire at a certain level. So, because you can't afford
Yes.
that level, and even if you could afford that level, you have a whole other set of problems. So,
Yeah, and also Suzanne, I find that, and I'm learning this a bit late in life, that my drive is not at the same kilometer per hour as everybody else's drive. So whereas I'm running at 200 kilometers per hour, I do not understand why you are not running at 200 kilometers per hour and why you seem to be doing 50. And I'm wondering, hello, can you catch up? And as I'm pushing you to catch up, I run the risk of breaking you. I run the risk of trampling on your ego, which I really do not want to do. And I find that a big challenge as a small entrepreneur.
your reputation precedes you.
Yes.
And I'm curious, because you assist organizations with finding the right candidates, correct?
Yes.
There's finding the right candidates, and then there's keeping the right candidates.
Yes.
What would have an organization needed to do to keep you working for them?
That's a difficult question, Suzanne. What do they have needed to do? I think they needed to keep me engaged much more, keep my mind engaged much more. I was working for this organization whose headquarters was in South Africa, and I was reporting into an MD here and reporting parallel into a head of HR in South Africa. The organization was going through enormous changes. Previously owned by an American company that was bought by another company that was bought by another. So the changes along the line were extremely enormous. However, those changes did not quickly trickle to Africa. And so a lot of time we were left doing very mundane work. And for me, it was exciting when we were setting up the processes and setting up the procedures. And each time there would be a new product, we'd have to set up people systems to handle that. But when that challenge was no longer there, then I was left sitting back and saying, so what next? It was a very well-paying job. And the salary was extremely great. In fact, even when I handed in my letter of resignation, the managing director asked me, who has offered you better pay than this?
If an organization wants to keep a very capable individual with an expertise who is motivated, what are some of the things that could they do to do?
One is that this organization, this individual must feel part of the strategy, part of the growth, part of the drive of the organization. And it doesn't matter whether this person is a head of department, a mid-level manager, or an entry-level manager. When people in the organization no longer feel part of the overall strategy of the organization, then all they are doing is clocking in a day's work. So what I advise heads of organization is that you must ensure that everybody in the organization knows where you're going, knows where you're driving the organization to. And it's not uncommon to find organizations where the head of the organization and the managers know where they're going, but the rest of the department, the rest of the organization are just clocking in hours, doing their paperwork, logging in numbers, but they have, let me not say no clue, but they have a foggy idea of what is going on. And it's a very difficult and painful task to get everybody to understand and to get involved. But it must be done. For those organizations that do it, I can see their retention levels are extremely high. So people need to know, where are we going? Why do I come to work every day? Yes. The other thing that I find important for engagement is that, organizations have a personality. And however much you may say, no, this organization, they do have a personality. And a lot of the time, the personality is the personality that has developed over a long period of time. Well, management gurus call it culture. I call it personality. Now, if the personality of the organization is radically different from my personality, it's unlikely I'm going to stay there. Because I'm usually fighting with myself to be part of this team. If I'm working for a banking organization with very stringent rules and a very tight-up organization that requires that I dress in a certain manner, I talk in a certain manner, and I behave to clients in a certain manner, and that is totally out of my innate behavior, I will do it to keep the job, to pay the bills, but I'll never fit into it. And that's where I'm bringing in the idea of a company, first of all, profiling itself to come up with these are the basic behavioral characteristics that everybody who is working here must have. So first of all, profile the personality of the organization. Once you profile the personality of the organization, do what we're calling scientific psychometric profiling for all people who join, and ensure they have that common denominator of those characteristics. Of course, the characteristics will change depending on whether they are in finance or whether they are in HR, but there's a common denominator that must exist in everybody. Now, when you find that 80% of the organization staff have personality that is compliant with the personality of the organization, your retention levels are higher.
What are some of the biggest mistakes organizations make in creating a winning team?
Some of the mistakes we make, number one, is assuming that money is all. And I know we are in a developing country where money is tight. But as people move up the career ladder, money is important, but money loses that last edge to be the motivator, the retainer, the have-it-all that the person wants to be able to get the job. So in creating a winning team, that's one of the most common mistakes that I see made, especially in the affluent companies in this country and in the East African region. It's assuming that money is all. Hiring people who are not the right fit for the organization, and then trying to make them fit. I always tell people, why teach a monkey how to fly when you can hire an eagle? So why don't you hire the eagle if that's what we're looking for? And if you really want the climbing trees people, why hire an eagle? You can't keep it on the tree, it wants to fly.
Do you have any perspective on what you can do as an organization to draw the right people?
The key thing is what brand has the organization created around itself? And brand is everything from, do you keep the brand promise when it comes to your dealing with customers? Because if you're able to keep the brand promise when you're dealing with customers, it's likely, not always, it's likely that you'll do the same thing when you are dealing with your staff members. And a lot of us are still concerned about working for the right brand. So I would want to, as you said, Coca-Cola, I would want to be associated with Coca-Cola because in this country it still retains a very strong brand, both in the way the staff relate with it and in the way they keep the brand promise with their clients.
So as an entrepreneur looking to find the right people with limited money,
Yes.
What are some things that you would recommend that they should do to ensure that they're getting the right people?
Yes. I think I'll comment on myself. And I find that the people I have hired along the way are people who have had a strong belief in my vision. I've just recruited head of a payroll from a competitor. He agreed to come onto virtual HR at the same pay that he was on. And I asked him why. And he says, I can see that you have such a burning vision. You have such a strong focus on where you're going. I've seen what you've done in the short time that you've done, and I want to work with you. And secondly, I've read a lot about your articles, and I've read a lot about who you are. And if you can promise me that you'll take me under your arm and mentor me, then I'm ready to work with you. For me, it is an honor to be able to work with you. And I can't say I was a little flattered. I said, really? And that is the reason why you're leaving your current job? And I did reference checks on him because I said, maybe this. The reference Gladys checks came out very clean. As a small entrepreneur, and knowing that you may not have all the money, there has to be something else you're promising these people. And for me, what I'm promising them is, I want to make you the best you can be. I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to do what it takes. I have a mentor. He's one of the thought leaders in this country. He's called Sunny Pindra. And Sunny keeps telling me that, Gladys, the only thing that will get you from where you are to the next level is if you're an authentic leader. And many people can read that. You can't be fake for too long. Many people will see if you're authentic or not. And if you're authentic, they will want to stand by you. So believe in what you say, do what you say, and ensure that whatever it is that you're doing is for the good of all of us.
Now, what changes have you seen in regards to hiring and development practices in organizations over the last 10 years?
What changes have I seen? As I mentioned earlier, Suzanne, Kenya is still a very certificate-based organization. It's what papers do you have, what degree do you have, what diploma do you have? Do you have 2 masters? You have 2 masters, really? Do you have a PhD? We are very paper-oriented and very certificate-oriented. And I have tried to trace where this came from, and I can't tell. I don't know if it's because we have a large number of universities in this country, but we are a society where parents are ready to sell land to take children to university in India, in UK, and in the US. And parents are ready to sell their assets to take their children to school. Most of the loans that I would approve when I was head of HR were school fees loans. For people who are paying school fees not only for their children, but for their sisters' children, for their cousins' children. So our investment around education in this country is huge. And therefore, it follows that employers then have tended to look a lot around papers. Now, I want to compare this to South Africa, where I've spent a considerable amount of time working with the employment industry there. And in South Africa, the focus is a lot on the personality. Is a lot on, have you done this job before, and are you trainable to do this job? And once you train to do this job, are you retainable? I know these are not English words, but yeah, can we retain you on the job? Now, the move that I think should happen in Kenya is that we need to move away from being too paper-based to being more of, you have the papers, what else can you offer? That is the first thing. And secondly, does your personality match with the personality of the organization? And once you move into those 2 fields, we are then going into the scientific management of HR. We're going into psychometric analysis, into psychometric tests, into assessment centers, to be able to see whether you actually do fit. Now, that move is happening, but very slowly. I know it's happening with a lot of the multinationals. And I know it's happening with the companies that are on the first lane. Because then a number are able to see that once you have 2 MBA holders, how do you differentiate them? There has to be something else. But it really hasn't sunk deep yet. I must say it's still very shallow waters that we still need to get there.
So it will be an evolution.
It will be an evolution, it will be a change in mind frame, to be a paradigm shift to many leaders. When I go to Rwanda and I try to tell that to my client, they are as equally stuck in the paper mentality, in the certificate mentality.
Yeah, and I think to your point, why that's happened, it's because at one point there were probably a lot of people that didn't have the papers.
Yes.
Now that so many people are
Yes.
going to have them, and
Yes.
to your point, masters and masters, who do you hire?
Exactly.
It'll come down to personality. What occupation are you seeing women playing in organizations now?
First of all, and I've looked at a number of banks and a number of insurance companies and a number of IT companies. At the entry level, many women are hired. And we could say the ratio is almost 60% men, 40% women, or 50% women, 50% men, because we have many young women graduates who are ready to run. But we reach a point where either because we just can't break through to make it there, or we just get tired of being passed over for promotion, and I can't tell why. Women then tend to fall in line. Either they move to other organizations, or they move to set up their own businesses, or they just drop off. However, the women who are making it up are so visible and so attractive that a lot of now the much younger generation, I'd say the generation of my daughter, who is 18 years old, is able to look up and say, I'm going to get there. So currently, I would say few women at the top, but trailblazing. But it's very clear that there is an avenue for women, and there has been some block somehow, but we are making through.
Do you have any insight, just from your perspective, what is it taking that one woman says, okay, I'm not going to just stay at this one level? What kind of characteristics do they have that is bolstering them ahead of the pack?
I think one thing that is making women move up is this, what we talked about, being authentic. And a lot of the women I know who are at the top, you can see are authentic. Either because we are not very good actors, actresses, or when it comes to the business world, we know we have to give it our best. We find that the women who are making it at the top are those who can be leaders that you can see through, keep their word, and are able to run through with it. Then there's the issue of hard work, sheer hard work. I mean, we talk about smart working and working smart and so on, but a lot of the women who make it to the top put in very many hours of genuine work, not many hours of just idling around. You know, fly from one continent to the next and get to the next continent and get the job running immediately. So that sheer hard work is one of the things that I know is going to push many women up the ladder. Another thing that I find extremely impressive about women who make it to the top, and many of the ones I've talked to, is their ability and their desire to mentor the rest of the women. And I keep telling women, you know, when I give my speeches, I tell women, it's important to get there, but you don't want to get there alone. You'll be lonely. So let's get there and let's carry our sisters along with us. And that mentoring mind frame, I feel, is a mind frame that is lacking in many of the men leaders. And it probably comes from our nurturing skills that even when I am in Geneva, as I have been, I've still been taking care of my 4 children. Now, the same thing at the workplace. We take it as a role to, you know, to like be the mother hen. Mm-hmm. And those are the women who make it up there.
Do you see any limitations of being the mother hen, though?
There are limitations. There are limitations of being a mother hen, because then a number of times, if the chicks do not get out of the nest, they will forever be around you expecting to be mothered and pushed up. So my style of mentoring is telling people, I'll mentor you for 6 months and drop you. And let's meet after 6 months. Because in the 6 months, we've come up with a project plan. We've come up with what we call a vision board. And in fact, I brought my vision board to show you if you'd like to see it, because the vision board is my mentoring tool.
Wonderful.
We've come up with a vision board, and the vision board has rough timelines. So let's meet after 6 months and let's see where you have been. And that's the same thing I did with my dear friend at Strathmore, and I'm so proud of her. The leaps she has made in the last 3 years are amazing.
That is very powerful, because it's one thing to mentor, it's also one thing to let go.
Yes.
Do you think women work harder in Kenya or in Africa? Well, you would have experience all over Africa.
Suzanne, women in Africa work harder than men. And I don't say Canadian women do not work hard, but I say the woman in Kenya, on average, let's start from the home front, on average has 4 to 6 children. Mm-hmm. I have 4 children, but most of my friends have 4 to 6 children. Mm-hmm. They need to keep the home running. And in Africa, women run the homes single-handed. Mm-hmm. You will have your house help. Thank God we are still able to have house help. You'll have your gardener. if you can afford it, and you have someone taking care of the children. But guess what? You do the shopping. You check in the fridge to see what's missing. You check in the store to see what's missing. You're called in school for parents' meetings. So the work at home around the family is a full-time job. Now the men, on the other hand, their work at home is about the check, the bill, and then playing with the children, for those who are able to play with the children. So already you can see the woman in a day is going to put in 5 hours for home. The man is going to put in 30 minutes. Right? Then when you go to the office, I am going to be evaluated on the same terms as my male counterparts.
You're a successful businesswoman.
Yes.
You've got a great reputation.
Yes.
So your husband comes home one day
Yes.
and says, you know what, honey? I'm going to take care of the kids full time. Your business is doing really well. You're making really good money, and I need to change. I'm going to come home and take care of the kids. What would you say?
I'd be glad. Oh, do you mean he keeps his job and comes home?
No. No. He can't keep his job because you're doing so well.
Yes.
That you're traveling all over Africa.
Yes.
And he's not going to keep his job, but let's say your income is going to cover that.
Yes.
But he's decided, well, you know what, I'm going to stay home with the kids and make sure the homework's done and do the grocery shopping.
Okay. That will happen in Tom and Jerry world. So I can't even figure it happening at all. That an African man, or my husband, he's a mechanical engineer, he decides to step out from his job and stay home and take care of the children.
If he said he was going to, maybe because of his personality, you can't see it happening, but let's say he said that, what would you say?
I'd tell him, please keep your day job. I'll come home earlier.
Okay.
Does that answer you?
That answers my question.
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you finding that the woman's voice is being heard?
Yes.
Is it being heard in the corporate world?
More and more. Not as loudly as it is being heard in civil society. And we are so proud of our civil society sisters, the NGOs and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they, I think, are doing a more commendable job than we are doing in the corporate world. But I would say, because the corporate ladder is more, I don't want to say more intricate, but it's more structure focused, we are not making our voice heard as loud as it should be.
What has been the most difficult aspect for you in working in human resources?
To balance the various personalities that I have to deal with scientific structures that state how HR should be run. Sometimes I have made wrong decisions, or I've made extremely good decisions based on the personalities around me at that particular time. Either the personality of the person I report to, or the personality of the people I'm dealing with. When I should, at times, focus more on what does the performance management system say, what does the review say, what do we do with this employee, do we keep them, do we take them for mentoring, or do we show them the exit door? So I found that balance of what is right as far as the structure is concerned and dealing with the personality a bit difficult. Sometime along my career I had to do a retrenchment, which was an Africa-wide retrenchment that when I look at it in retrospect, I keep thinking, at that point probably I was too young in my career and I wasn't ready to deal with the intricacies of doing a retrenchment and the emotions. Because then I went down for a month. And a friend of mine told me, you need to see a psychiatrist. I said, nah, I'm a big girl, I don't need to see a psychiatrist. But it kept eating at me for a whole year. The problem was I was retrenching people I loved. And I was carrying out a retrenchment for people that I knew their families too well. I knew this person had just taken a mortgage and his wife didn't have a job. This one had just taken a car loan and the wife didn't have a job. And because of my idea of getting to know everybody, I was too entwined in people's lives and people's mess. And therefore, when I had to let them go, I couldn't help feeling that it's not the organization, it's Gladys. Yeah. And that still remains a big weakness in me because I get too close. And I've been trying to, to be the leader who says, let me withdraw myself and look at this from a structured point of view. But I haven't been very successful in that area. And that, with that kind of personality that I have, handling human resources can be a big challenge.
You know, it can be a big challenge, and it's interesting, people will often say, but it's business. So there's two Gladyses that need to come to the table.
Yes.
This is the business Gladys,
Yes.
and this is one that really wants to work with you as a person. Because that would be very, very challenging.
Yes.
Now, what would you do differently now in that situation?
I think I've matured up a bit more. I would have, for example, ensured that I get the right legal systems in place. I would have ensured that after I get the right legal systems in place, I'm able to withdraw my emotions. And right now, as I say, as I mature more in handling human resources, I'm able to say it's business. Not easy, but there are times I can put it on the table and say it's business. And the decision is this, and it may not favor you, but that's how we are going to do it.
To date, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of your career?
I consciously and unconsciously do mentoring. And I moved into HR through training and development. And you see, with training, you always see the difference between the client who walked in on Monday and the one who is leaving on Friday after the 5-day training. Already that difference gives me a kick. But even further is when I come back 6 months later, I check through the organization and ask, have there been changes? Since we carried out the training, is there a difference in the performance? Is there a difference in customer care? Is there a difference in the review process? When I see that difference, there is nothing more rewarding to me. That's the first. Secondly, and this sounds very capitalistic, but I can't help getting a kick when I see these young graduates I hired from campus, when they could hardly afford a second pair of shoes, and they could hardly, get the shirt together. And I bring them into the organization, mentor them, nurture them, promote them, and 6 years down the line, they're driving the latest car, and they're able to live a better life, they're married, they have children, and I'm saying, I don't know that I should attribute it to myself, but my ego tells me, it's because of me that I was able to notice you from the whole riffraff of the university graduates, and we mentored you to this level. That is the rewarding bit in HR. That what makes me really love the job. The difference in people.
What is the most significant decision you've made in your career?
Unfortunately, my significant decisions have been to leave an employer. My first job from campus was as a lecturer in a college. The college is now one of the leading universities in Kenya. But at that point, it was a college that was teaching accounting and secretarial. It was a very comfortable work environment, extremely well run, extremely comfy zone. But I reached a point I realized, no, this comfort zone is not good for me. I did not feel that I had the personality to become the principal, and I would never have become the principal of the organization. So why am I sticking around on the same? So I had started doing my MBA. The moment I finished my MBA, it took me 3 months to get a job, and that is record time because looking for a job in this country can be 3 months record time, and I moved into corporate. I got a job as a head of training for an organization, Africa Online, and they put me in charge of 9 countries. So what was the best decision I made? To leave my other employer. Now the same thing into consultancy. With my previous employer, when I felt this isn't happening anymore, this doesn't give me a kick anymore, I no longer jump out of bed with excitement. It's become too routine. The decision and the courage, because I was living a huge salary, the decision and the courage to just jump out is the best decisions I've made. So it may not sound good to my previous employers, but the best decisions I've made for my career have been to jump to the next level.
Could your your career worked in any other way?
No. I am 110% sure that had I not left my first employment from campus, I would still be there. Because my colleagues that I was hired with and that I left campus with are still there.
You need to do it in order to be successful. And that's your edginess on the other side. You go, oh, this feels uncomfortable. But yet, you know what? Every time I do it, I'm a better version of myself as a result. Do you have something that you constantly push your comfort zone on?
Taking the bold step.
Yeah.
That, of course, pushes me out of my comfort zone. But taking a bold step and saying, this isn't working anymore, I need to jump out. And it's risky business because the corporate world is littered with examples of those who have taken that so-called bold step and 2-3 years later come back saying, you know what, I want my job. So for me, that really pushes me has pushed me out of my comfort zone. Taking the bold step and saying, I'm leaving. I want to move to the next level. I'm not going to move to the next level on this seat. Let me move to the next level, but let me take the bold move. And also, I don't do it recklessly. Before I left my last employer to get into this consultancy, I had endless meetings with my mentor. And I had endless discussions with him. And he didn't push me to move. He just told me, look at this angle. Have you looked at this angle? Have you tried this angle? And when I actually made a move, he asked me, and I called him and said, I've made a move. He asked me, you didn't see it coming? So I could see he could see it coming, but he didn't want to be the one to make the decision because I am the one who's going to live the life.
What does success mean to you?
Success to me means getting there. And getting there on all fronts. Getting there in the sense of financially, family, socially, health, mentally, and getting there not alone, but with my lobby group of girls and boys if there are any. So success is around having the wholesome life where I know that I'm able to take care of my material needs. I know I have a string of friends and I can go to the country club and play golf. I'd love to play golf. And a spiritual life, and I want my children to grow up in that spiritual life. And I want my children to know that Sunday is the day we dress up and go to church. And I want to be friends with them and friends with my husband. Now, as I'm going there, I want to take along people with me. If I'm able to do that, that's what I call success.
Yeah, great definition.
Yeah.
How would you define leadership?
Leadership is futuristic. Leadership is not what I'm doing now. Is what is going to happen as a result of what I'm doing now. Michael Porter says you can become rich making shoes and you can become poor making shoes. Italy is rich making shoes. And a lot of economies, the poorest people are the cobblers who sit on the floor and just, string after string after string with old leather making shoes. So they're all doing the same thing, but it's how you use the assets that you have for the future.
As a leader, what do you find are the 3 most powerful pieces of advice you can give to someone trying to lead a project or a team or an initiative?
The first thing is that I, or you as a leader, need to realize that you are a speck in the world. In the sense that the world is so huge. You are such a small, minute bit of that world. But small as you are, you have to make a difference. When a leader feels too big, then they feel indispensable. And they feel their people cannot survive without them. And therefore, I'm here for life. I'm not leaving this corporation because if I leave, what will happen? So, lesson number 1, a leader needs to know that I'm a speck in the world, but in my small spot, I need to lead. The second lesson is that the world only needs 1% of the population to be leaders. It's only 1% of us who can be leaders, who want to be leaders. 99% want to be led and are happy to be led. I know there's a paradox from a human resource person who tells everybody they must be leaders. But the reality is 99% of people just want to be left to do their job. Now, if you find yourself in that 1%, take it seriously. Just know that you, one, are carrying 99%. You're carrying 99 people with you. And you have to take them in the right direction. There's no doubt about it. You fall in a ditch, you fall down with all of them. And the 99%, and I do a lot of psychometrics, and a lot of people sometimes tell me, I don't want to be the head of IT. I'm happy to be a networking engineer doing my job. Grow my salary in this realm of a networking engineer. But don't expect me to be, don't think that my growth path is necessarily the head of networking, where you are now giving me other issues like managing people, managing finances, managing projects, processes, and so on. Yeah. So that's my lesson number 2. If you find yourself in that 1%, take the job seriously. Because when you fall in a ditch, you fall in with the 99. If you fly up to the sky, you're flying up with the other 99. Always being able to answer the question, why am I in business? Why am I in corporate? And why am I a leader in corporate? And I have several answers. They say, 1, to see satisfied customers. 2, to make money. 3, to grow the people under me. 4, to give motivation to people. Now, the leadership lesson around that is that as a leader, I must always go through the thought process in every situation where I am of asking, why am I here? And am I doing the right thing? Because as a business person, there's always the danger that I might fall into the realm of, I'm here for money. And I'm ready to make money at whatever cost. And that's all that matters. And as I explained to you in the beginning, that is not my definition of success. It has to be all-rounded.
All 3 are very, very good. But in the second one, to your point, not everybody wants to be a leader, and not everybody wants to manage people, and not everybody wants to increase their responsibility. Leadership can be outside of the workplace.
Yes.
And the one thing I have learned as we've been in Africa almost 6 months now is often that's where the people take their leadership. Is in their communities,
yes.
or with their families, or with their extended families. So we're not defined just by what we do at work,
yes.
but some of us don't want to lead an organization.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
So, which is a really, really good point.
Yeah, and I also find, Suzanne, that sometimes some of us don't really want to lead the community. We want to be part of the community.
Yeah, that's true. What's next?
What's next for me, Suzanne, is I want to do more speaking assignments. I want to set up this HR consultancy. It already has a general manager. It has a business development manager, and it has consultants who, though not yet ready, are going to be ready in 2 to 3 years' time. So I see this consultancy for me as a stepping stone to doing what I love. I want to do more speaking assignments. I already have a project that I'm calling Put Your Best Foot Forward, which is a mentorship, leadership, speaking assignment project, because that's what I love to do. However, it will not pay my bills. For the first year, it will not pay my bills. So I need the consultancy running and at the same time, focus on this. Yeah. So Put Your Best Foot Forward is more of a leadership, speaking, mentoring program for corporate. Mid-level management, senior management. So that is my passion now. The second thing is, as I mentioned, I ran a leadership course in a school called Kianda School. Now, Kianda is one of the high-end schools in this country. My children go to that school, and it's a school that attracts children who will definitely end up being leaders. And a number of my friends are doing work with children from the slums, from children from disadvantaged communities. I said I'll take the bull by the horns and I deal with children from mid to high level families, because they are also getting lost. So who is giving them those leadership skills? Now the school approached me and asked me, can I give them a leadership session? And they said, yes, I will do it for free. So I developed an 8-module leadership course, which we ran one session. We had a wonderful graduation. In fact, the current director of anti-corruption was our master of ceremony at the graduation. It was a big hike. But what the children told me, and these are 16, 17-year-olds, what the children told me was something that almost made me cry. You know, that we haven't gone through this before. You've taught us how to do a vision board. You've taught us how, after we do a vision board, how to set our targets high, and we're going to get there. So I want to do more of that. The school is very pleased about it. And if I can just spend more time on that, I'll say, wow, that's what I want to do. I'm now 44. I'm giving myself 6 years to do this intensely, and I'm sure I'll make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a brilliant project because kids need to learn that leadership. So that's kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah. And I also feel, Suzanne, that a lot of effort is being pushed to the disadvantaged families, and not enough to these other families because they assume the children have it. But when I deal with them, they don't.
Just because they may have some money doesn't mean they have parents that may be able to instill that sort of information to them.
Exactly. And then also based on that, what the 8th module involves is doing some work in a disadvantaged community. Because in this country, it's possible to live in Karen and not know what happens in the slum. It's possible to live in Lavington and not know what happens. So a number of the children told me, though the school is in Lavington, but there's a slum behind it. They had never been there. But this program involves them going to the slum and teaching children who are 4 years younger than them the same program that I'm taking them on. So we do 2 modules and they go there on a Saturday. These are children that teaching who have no shoes, no sweaters, haven't had a meal. So these girls then have to carry bread, they have to carry bread, they have to share with the children. They even took the children to the national park. Some of the children had never been out of the slum. They were going to the national park for the first time. My girls shed tears and I told them, girls, that is leadership. When you're able to live in this country and know what happens there, what happens here, you're now ready to be a leader. The way you're being brought up now, where your friends are, is not leadership. So I want to push that seriously. Let's see how it goes.
Yes. Which leads, you have 4 daughters. You've come from a family of 4 girls.
Yes.
15.
15? Yeah, 15. Okay, let's say that 15-year-old is 10 years old today. What advice would you give her today?
All I'm telling my girls, and I will tell the 10-year-old, is that whatever you have to do, do it so well that nobody has to come after you to clean it up.
Okay, excellent. What do you wish you were told at that age?
What I wish I'd been told at that age is that, you know what, Gladys, you will be what you want to be. Because I discovered that after I left high school. But when I left high school, I realized, hold on, whatever I want to be, I will be. And I wish that had been formed in my mind then. I feel I came to know it much later. And that's what I'm telling my girls now. Who do you want to be? You can be. What do you want to be? You can be.
Yeah. So what words of wisdom do you have for the women of Africa?
I think the women of Africa are the ones who are going to save Africa. And though we don't have many examples of women heads of states, but where women have taken charge politically in a positive way, there has been a huge impact. The same thing in the rural settings. Where women have taken charge, there has been a positive, truly positive impact. So my message to the women of Africa is, and I strongly believe we are the salvation for Africa. It's no longer the men. It's no longer the men.
Well, I think that's a great way to end our interview. Wonderful. I'm Suzanne F Stevens, and I'm co-producer of Wisdom Exchange TV. My husband, Michael K. Ginrick, is also producing the show with me. And we're traveling all over Africa for the next year plus, interviewing women just like Gladys, women that are leaders, and giving us tactics and strategies on how to be leaders not only in our life, but in our community, in our country, and our continent. If you know someone we should interview, please email us at info@wisdomexchangetv.com and give us a name and what they've accomplished, and I'll do some research and find out if they fit our criteria. Also, if you know an organization that would like to get their name in front of top women leaders in business sectors such as agribusiness, services, and textiles and crafts, ask them to look at Wisdom Exchange TV. You'll see we have a sponsorship package for Africa Businesswoman Connected Summit taking place in Ethiopia in 2013. And again, they can email me at info@wisdomexchangetv.com and I can provide you with much more information. Again, my name is Suzanne F Stevens, and I'm going to leave you with my words of wisdom. If you want change, you just have to put one foot in front of the other, just like our guest did today. And it always leads to something more productive, more beneficial, and something you're more passionate about. Thank you for joining us.